Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another episode of Sonic Conversations. As you can tell, yeah, we're fighting the bugs, but nonetheless,
we are ill.
Nonetheless, man, we're here. I mean, previous episode was quite insightful, something a little bit different. For fellow creatives, people are still building. And yeah, man, there's more of a how can I even put it, man? There's a bite of information more than anything else, but educational in the process as well, right?
Nice.
And in today's episode, we're really just gonna be breaking down the 8th track of the Sabbath, titled "The Law of First Mention," featuring Robin Fassi. Yeah. So sorry. I forgot to introduce who I'm with in the call. Okay.
Of course, everybody knows by now. I mean, honestly.
No, but
like we're like 8. How many episodes
8
are we?
No, it's 6 episodes in.
I mean, we 8 episodes deep. I mean,
we're 6.
Like, come on,
Actually
like
6.
they know who we are by now.
Yeah, we're actually 6
Gabi
episodes.
Motuba.
But correct.
6, yeah, 6
episodes. Because remember,
but we're on track 8.
Yeah, we're on track 8.
But we're on track 8.
Yeah, we come from afar, man. We come from afar. Just I will always reflect. In every episode, you must just be comfortable. We come from afar. I think, now we kind of like at towards the end of the project. And really it's like the journey has been quite soothing and kind of like learning where each song stems from, you know what I mean, like what inspired it, the writings behind it, the creation process behind them, so before we even start, the law of first mention, what is that, because for me it sounded like you're reciting scripture to a certain extent, whilst pinning down a letter, you know what I mean, and then I saw it as a letter of contentment more than anything else. I don't know why. But take us
explain that. What does that mean? A letter of
contentment. So it's like you kind of like expressing how content you are with everything.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, like you being at peace with everything, and it's just instead of complaining or crying, it's you saying it's happened. I'm here. We're all here. I just have to carry on, and this is me.
This is so true. That is so profound. That is actually, you're actually not far off from what this thing is. Yeah.
FBI.
How crazy that you landed on that. Wow.
FBI must hire me, man. No, I do.
But you are aligned.
I kid you not. I think it's how I listen to it also. Like thing is, I overthink a lot. You know this by now. I overthink a lot of stuff a lot, right? But the beautiful part with that is like instead of me having it be a bad thing, it's become more of a good thing. Because how I analyze music, how I analyze movies, how I analyze engagement with people, Sharp, sometimes I overanalyze, but it's healthy because I kind of get various perspectives or aspects, within my mind. Like I try as much as to give everything a fair chance, you know what I mean, of detail. Let me put it like that. And the more one can detail something in their head, the better. I'm sure I'm not the only one in the world, who overanalyzes things from a personal aspect to things, because I know that it's a human thing. There's people out there who obviously take it to the extreme. Thank God I don't take it to the extreme. There's people who genuinely take it to the extreme, man. Like they will come to your house. How they found your ID, you don't know. They're outside. You gotta explain this to me, okay? So, but take us.
I hear you, yeah.
But take us through it. Like, why the first law of mention, title, and the most important, like, the sonic experience as a whole.
Yeah, Yeah, like you said, I think that's a good place to start. When you're speaking of this letter of contentment, because oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, guys. Pardon me.
No stress. Okay. We'll fight for our lives.
Oh my gosh, what a wow. Okay, the law first mentioned, and just putting it aside, this idea of contentment. So the law first mentioned is like a theological concept, right? Which by definition is saying that when you read the Bible, Genesis is the place where everything is established. So all the characters, all the events, in order to get an accurate kind of account of the characters in the Bible, you have to look first at Genesis in terms of when they were first mentioned, in relation to other people, in relation to the place where they are, in relation to certain events. You see what I mean? So like you're saying, it's very much in correlation with this idea of contentment, because it's sort of saying what Genesis has established is what it is, right? And from then on forth, you are able to kind of track the journeys of individuals without this kind of personal or opinionated viewpoint, but with this very objective idea. So this is what I wanted to speak about, like this objective. What is this objective idea of the world that's happening outside of my own experience, outside of my own opinion even, and I wanted to understand how the world works outside of myself, and to really just come to terms with that, no matter if I find something that is favorable or unfavorable, it was more important for me to understand the thing as it was. So this is where the lyrics came from. The law first mentioned, it's kind of telling a story of two lovers, black individuals, and I was trying to understand how their journey could be mapped out from this the birthplace of being a black individual in the world, and what that means in the world, and how to kind of track their experience in the world according to this understanding, according to how they entered the world. So yeah, this is kind of a synopsis of what I had in mind when I was writing the lyrics.
It sounds like more of, how can I put it, man, like the birthing of a new phase in life, right? But to get to the new phase, you kind of need to reference the old phase, right? It's like the Old Testament and the New Testament. That's just me summarizing it like that, right? What happened in the Old Testament didn't necessarily happen in the New Testament, because the Old Testament is more of a storytelling book. That's how I perceived it, right? There's more stories, and then in the New Testament there's more wisdom. There's wisdom within the stories, right? Because there's lessons behind them, right? And this is just like a guide from Genesis till the end of the Old Testament, where you kind of learn a lot more about the characters. I deem them as characters, but they're people, right? But characters, because it's a book, right? And what these characters do is they go out on an strange venture of some sort, right? To find some sort of alignment with the world, and with God. You know what I mean? Like those various elements of the world that contribute to how we think. Hence, you'll get guys. Who was the guy who sold out Judas Iscariot, for example, right? Someone who was willing to short value a sentimental relationship for a piece of gold. But when he got that piece of gold, it ate him alive for weeks. and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks upon, because he thought he was going to enjoy the gold, but he didn't. You know what I mean? Because understanding on what happened, and Jesus was like, was pretty much acknowledgement at the Last Supper, say, yo, one of y'all did me dirty. Nah? One of you guys did me dirty. I'm not gonna mention who. I know who it is, but I'm not gonna mention who. But someone here snitched on me. They snitched about my whereabouts. You know, and you look at that, and then look, we think quite frankly about it, and we panic sometimes. It's like, how? Why would God let that happen? Right? Sometimes it's like you question it, right? But then you realize it's like, no, dude. In order for the newer phase of life to happen, Jesus had to be crucified, unfortunately. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it took time, because remember, everything accumulated. It's like when you go back, it's like, okay, cool. Which descendant do we really fall into? It's Adam and Eve, because Adam and Eve had kids. And when you think about it more, it's like, okay, hold up. Where were the other kids coming from? That's the other thing, you know? But you realize...
Well, I mean, of course, like when I also mention all of these, when I make mention of these biblical, I think, kind of phenomenons, that really had made an impression on me, I have to add a side note that I'm not a Bible scholar, okay? And I'm not really interested in like the nitty-gritties of you know, of the Bible and you know, its kind of contents. But what I am interested in at first really was this amazing scholar. He goes by the name of Frank Wilderson, and he's got, you know, he's like this Afro-Pes scholar. It's also like a you know, that's a study that is like part of like Black studies. This is kind of like very interesting thought coming out of this idea of what being an Afro-Pes is. But anyway, I mean, I say this to say, like, sometimes I would watch his podcast and he'd say something so profound to me, but that has life within the Bible that I've heard before. You know, he'd speak about this idea of like paradigm shifts, and I think this is what you're also making mention of. You know, this idea between, you know, the Old Testament and the New Testament, you know, and of course like the crucifixion of Jesus. Yeah. So he's saying that, you know, in the world, in order for things to change fundamentally, there has to be this sea of violence that introduces a new thing, right? And, you know, if we think about the Big Bang and we think about Genesis and we think about the 7 days when, you know, God created the heavens, that's kind of referencing this thing. This there has to be this violent shift that introduces a new thought, you know, and this new thought kind of marks a trajectory, a way of thinking for the next, you know, 1,000 years or millennium, and it's not really about these interpersonal things that happen. This is why I'm saying, like, this is outside of people's opinions or really people's personal experiences. This is just a fundamental thinking that has been shaped from this very moment, right?
True.
So it's this idea of like paradigm shift. So Genesis also occupies this thing of like a paradigm shift, you know, of an introduction of a new thing, and also the crucifixion of Jesus, like you're saying, you know, someone did him dirty, and that was a sea of violence. This violent thing had to happen in order for a new way of thinking to be introduced.
True.
You know, prior to that moment, it was this Roman way of understanding the world, and then Jesus introduces this Christian way of thinking, of being, you know, that is like agreed upon by, you know, the majority of the new world, of the world that we occupy today.
True.
You know, so I was interested in that. I was like you're saying, like, I wanted to make peace with that, and knowing that before something real can be changed. Something fundamental has to be introduced, and of course, like, this introduction, I know it doesn't come in with like a cushion, you know what I mean? It doesn't come with like, you know, it's not on a bed of roses, but it's something that shakes you to the core, you know. And I think that for me, this also spoke to like you know, the passing of my father. And I think this is also something that happens, you know. I think grief is one of also those elements, you know, that shake you to the core, that kind of change your kind of your DNA in some way, or like, you know, the way that you're formed and the way that you think, you know, it kind of reshapes you. And probably love also is, I think, has this element, you know, this violent thing that like really helps you, not helps you, but forces you to prioritize things drastically and radically differently. So this was just an idea that I was thinking about, and I wanted to get deeper into it, just in terms of like what a love relationship would look like, you know. And I mean, I'm not one to write about love, so I think this was also a really cool way for me to speak about relationships.
I get you. I mean,
it not being like a personal love letter, but like, you know, this relationship in the world that people have, you know.
I mean, how I see it, right? And this is based on even how you explained it, right? It's a matter of, you know, we all have to feel some sort of pain and discomfort, right? So with every brand new change that's impactful comes discomfort.
Exactly.
It comes being sacrifice, you know, and then not compromise, because compromising is saying, yo, I will minimize on 1, 2, and 3 sometimes, you know what I mean? I will not eradicate the whole.
It's not compromise, it's something else. Yeah,
you need to sacrifice something that you really love, let it go in order to accommodate the new, right? And like how you put it, like even in a relationship, in order for a relationship to be consistent, or relationship at least to grow further out of what it's built of, right, there has to be some sort of discomfort. Every relationship reaches a discomfort phase, whether it's with family, friends, wherever. There's a discomfort phase, you know what I mean, where everyone is trying to figure things out, right? It's like, I'll read like this, in your varsity days, right? I'm sure you had those moments where it's like, yeah, I get along with Jesse, but I don't know, man. Do I still want to be friends with Jesse? Because maybe Jesse is taking a different route or a different approach in life. And for you, it's like, nah, that's not for me, bro. I don't think that's going to work. You know what I mean? Because the way this person is moving, that's going to slow me down. So we'll all have our own different... But you have to understand, though, by you letting go of Jesse, sometimes you are allowing room for newer friends. Had you allowed yourself to fall into Jesse's flows, you probably wouldn't be here, because Jesse would have delayed you. Jesse would have probably gotten you hooked up on Wunga and said, Tana, ki Wunga fela, braga.
That's it, yeah.
Where have you heard
I get what you mean.
So, I'm viewing it in that sense of, it's so easy for people to fall into the trap of the way of the world that we forget that we're also human beings ourselves. And when you understand that you're a human being yourself, you have to unfortunately go through the discomfort. You have to unfortunately approach and really, what's the word, man, outside of approach? You know, when you're approaching something directly, or you're going to someone directly to approach them about something, what's the term used? Damn, I feel so dumb, man. When you're approaching someone, like you are going to them directly,
like you're confronting them.
Yes. So you have to kind of confront your issues. You have to confront the uncomfortable conversations. You have to confront the uncomfortable changes in life. Because if we're really being honest, everything is seasonal. Our lives are seasonal. We just happen to attach it with years, but the seasons drag. seasons in our world is based off weather, right? But seasons in a different aspect, it's based on how things flow, you know what I mean? And then again, alignment, the key in aligning yourself with your journey, you know what I mean? And they seasons to it, you know, when you're 19 till 25, it's a seasonal transition, because how you think when you're 19 versus how you're thinking at the age of 25 is two different individuals, because
life has happened. The violence of life has happened.
You had to confront.
You're no longer in the exactly, and you're no longer in the comfort of your parents' protection or your guardian's protection. You know, you're out here in the world, and that, like we say, that constitutes and remakes you into a different human being. You know, that makes you take a new kind of shape. So it's I think, like you say, life is a series of discomforts, and I think discomfort is quite is a gift, for, especially if one really seeks change. If I think we pray for change, like we've been as a society, like even as a black people, as a collective, there's always this prayer for change, like, God, change the situation, change this vibe, man. Like, it's not it, and I think that through through discomfort is how we experience the possibility of something else coming to the fore, being able to be changed by this discomfort and allowing. But it's so funny. It's like we pray for change, but no one appreciates hard times and struggles. Like, no one signs up for that. Like, you know what I mean? You just be like, no, just change it while I'm just seated where I am comfortably. And it's like, wow, man, like, we don't realize that it doesn't work that way.
But that's because people want convenience, right? And unfortunately, the world doesn't work at a convenient pace, convenient approach. The world will always inconvenience us, and like how you put it, we also struggle to adapt to change. Look at it like this, right? COVID, I think, was a co-proving approach. I'd say approach, but situation, that kind of proved to us that we struggled with change. Because in the midst of us being in lockdown, what were we looking forward to the most? Being outside. Until it was time to go outside, then we realized, what's the point of being outside? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden it's like, nah, I'm a homebody, bro. Like, I don't think there's a need for me to go outside and spend my money, type of thing, right? And then people struggle to readjust. Others readjusted immediately, others didn't, right? And other people took them time. After a year or so, they're like, okay, now I'm ready to go outside because I think COVID is out the way. People were disguising it as COVID, disguising it under COVID, but I don't think it was probably an inner fear thing, whether it had to do with COVID itself. And it's okay, because it's a human thing. You're transitioning. At that time, they probably trying to figure out their emotions, trying to figure out their mental state, how to maintain their mental health. I think COVID taught us a lot of key stuff that we were avoiding pre-COVID, and now people kind of like take those things twice as serious, as opposed to before. Like, it existed, but it's like, I can wait, type of thing. Now it's like it exists and it can't wait. I get to it, I'll attend to it immediately. So I think that's the beauty of it, of the art as a whole, man. Also, and when you listen to the song, also, like, as I said, it's well written, well composed. The instrumental play itself, it's as if I'm in a movie, of some sort. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
It's giving that. Really, it's really giving that. because of just how, I can even put it, man. It's just how well blended the vocals are with the instrumental play, but also the storyline itself. It amplifies the storyline, because you listen, it's like there's meaning behind these lyrics though. These are not just lyrics that were written in 2 minutes. These were lyrics that were written with intention. Even if they were written in 2 minutes, they were written with intention.
For sure.
There was thought put behind them. You know? You can always go back and say, okay, this lyric means this, that lyric means that. Okay, so what does that other lyric mean? You know? It's literally given that. So you really did something different, man. You know?
Thank you.
You really,
I appreciate that.
You really did something different. I mean, also, you know, I'm actually curious, because you did mention before in the previous episode, I think 2 episodes back, on how obviously everything was recorded. It was a one recording session type of thing per song. Like, it was recorded, there was no multiple takes type of thing, right? What was the creation process of Mood like when creating this particular song?
Well, I mean, I composed the entire piece and arranged it before we got to studio. So all we really needed to do was to kind of rehearse it a few times, once or twice, and then we got into studio and recorded it. So, you know, I think the beautiful thing, just not even about this track, but this whole entire project, was that it seemed to me like it was really, really clear what it is that I was intending even before I got into studio, you know. And it makes me think of, you know, John Coltrane's A Love Supreme. And I don't know if you're familiar with him, but there's a documentary about how he made this album, you know, and how, like, he had it all written in the span of like 2 weeks, and like everything was written from beginning to end. And when he hit studio, he knew exactly what was going on. And I feel like, you know, there are those moments sometimes that are like really divine. I guess, like, if your intention is that, you know, to create something that is meaningful, but not just to other people, but even to yourself, you know, you just are really moved to create something that was like, you know, that is really meaningful and honest and vulnerable and authentic, you know, to who you are and what it is that you're trying to communicate. And funny enough, actually, this track was the very last track that I wrote. After this 3-4 year span. I wrote it while I was on a residency in Cape Town. And you know, I was staying in an apartment like just over this area called Woodstock.
Ooh,
and there's like so many
yeah,
it was like it's like in the city. It's in the city. No, I mean it's the city, nigga. It's like these taxis. It's like relax.
Woodstock, like it's just there. It's me. It's Woodstock, bruh. Okay.
No, Woodstock is like, you know, like a very cool artist also space. Like there's a lot of like cultural organizations,
spaces,
and, cultural spaces, yeah. You know, what is the other place that's there that's really, really famous?
Which one? Talking about the Old Biscuit Mill?
What is... No, not the Old Biscuit Mill. Man, it just left me. It would have been nice to give them a shout out.
That will come to me. I see you, Mrs.
Yeah,
Woodstock.
it'll come to me.
I see you.
Yeah, I mean, I was there. I was in Woodstock for a short like a month residency there, and for my residency I was given like a studio and a piano and equipment and stuff, and I was checking out a few things. And I was just messing around like on the piano, and like I said, you know, this is also linked to the previous track. The previous track is actually like the interlude of this, the law first mentioned, and that was a way that like I was referencing Cecil McLaurin, and that just inspired me, you know, those first couple of chords, and then all of a sudden like I just started playing it, and I was just like, and I wrote it, and I was like, man, this is it, you know. I wrote it so quickly, but I knew that, okay, this is the last song. After that, it just felt like the project was complete, you know. I think it also for me had a good balance between like the soundscaping stuff that I do as well as the lyrical stuff that I do, because this kind of gave it context, you know. Sometimes like lyrics really do help to bring things down to the streets, you know. It's like it doesn't leave things too open-ended, you know what I mean? Like that thing, like when you're listening to maybe like a deep house track and people come to their own personal conclusions because like the lyrics are like non-existent, you know what I mean?
True.
But I really wanted people, I wanted to give people kind of like breadcrumbs as to what to think about. So this is why I also had to have like a track that really had like a lot of lyrics to kind of help to think about the whole project as a whole, because I sing I sing lyrics very seldom in this whole project. So this was that song that was just like, okay, I'm gonna try for people to understand my point of view, you know.
That's all.
Yeah, and I think I managed to do that. This kind of captured like the core,
I mean,
of what it is that I had in mind.
Nigga, you cooked because, nigga, you was inspired by Woodstock. Hey, I'm just saying. was it the neighbor goods also? Neighbor goods market.
Yeah, I think like we were saying yesterday, it was like the spirit of young people. You know, the
True.
spirit of just the everyday.
True.
You know what I mean? It's just like, you know, when you're in Joburg, that's what you get. When you're in Joburg, you're just like, man, you can feel that this is a place where young people have a lot of expression. You know, the space is made in the image of like a young person's experience of the world, you know.
True.
But this is why you get so much poverty, you know what I mean? Like in South Africa, there's like so much unemployment, there's so much poverty. And it's like when you come to places like Johannesburg, you really understand, like, because there's like this visual representation. Yeah, I can hear you. My headphones are about to go. Can you hear me now?
I can hear 100% now.
Yeah, you're on my other one. It's fine.
I could hear. I'm like, nah, I've been cut.
Yeah, it just gets a bit glitchy when it moves to the other thing. But yeah, like I was saying, you know, like Joburg seems like the visual representation of like the youth experience, you know. So yeah, it's like Woodstock is the same, kind of similar, kind of, you know.
Nah, I get
It's Cape Town, so
I get you.
yeah.
I mean, look, it's really getting out of your comfort zone and going to explore the world a bit and allowing that particular moment to pour back into your cup, right? Because you're
Yeah.
really pouring into that cup or that community or some sort, right? And that's how I see it, and that's why like it's always kind of like good to understand, you know, your state of mind, because when you understand your state of mind, it's also a lot easier to navigate through difficult moments, right? It's a lot easier for you to write and express from the heart because your state of mind allows you to. I don't think people can express when their state of mind is not, it's distracted, let me put it like that. You know when you're in a distractive state of mind where it's like you can't really think straight because there's so many things happening that require you to, you know, and the next thing that happens steals that train of thought, you know. So I think
For sure.
it's literally just that. So if your state of mind allows you to do so, you'll express, you'll be able to really talk your truth because it's how you felt. It's a lot easier for you to let it all out artistically, so
Yeah.
you know. So I can only imagine, you know, the hurdles that must have came with. But we'll touch base on that on the next episode.
For sure.
You know, but again, like previously in the previous episode, we spoke on community building, the importance of having a community around you. And the lovely thing about you is that you've got a lovely community. You've got a lovely, I feel like you're surrounded by an abundance of amazing people.
I'm surrounded by?
You're surrounded by an abundance of amazing people.
Yeah, no,
You know
for
what I mean?
sure, that's true.
Because these people who are constantly ready to reinvest, you know, into your vision. You know, there's people who were there to walk the journey with you. You know what I mean? And not just
For
walk the
sure,
journey,
yeah.
but walk it with you. I think those are things that keep us saying, man. You know, just have good people around you and be a good person yourself, and you'll be fine. You know,
Yeah.
that's all the world
Yeah.
really asks
No,
from
that's
us. You know, and I think sometimes that's a
For
big
sure.
sacrifice from people. Like some people, it's a big sacrifice for them. Sure, it's like my sister will never, you know, you'll never see me making those type of sacrifices where I'm being a good person type of thing. People are villainous. I'll make an example of a video I was watching last night. Actually, good question. Who would you think, if you could get into a fight every day, nah, or every year, nah, for 1 year straight, nah, for $10 million, would you fight with Batman, but once a quarter, or the Powerpuff Girls every day?
What the hell?
No,
What kind of question?
you'll understand my analogy.
Okay. Okay, let me think about that. So would I fight with Batman quarterly
Yeah.
or the Powerpuff Girls every day?
Yes.
No, it's definitely Batman. The Powerpuff Girls have way too much energy, and they would really after that 365 days I would look unrecognizable. So with Batman, I think I can train proper. I can train for Batman. I'd kick Batman's ass, man. Like,
Okay.
For real.
Okay. Yeah. Here's what I'm asking, nah? It's the balance, right? The balance in life as a whole, right? It's really all about the cycle of change, nah? And some of us get stuck into a routine where you know, there's a cycle of change every quarter, right? And I say every quarter in a sense that you reflect on your progress, you're tracking your progress as just an individual as a whole, right? And then the pop-up goes is every day, bruh. There's so much happening, it becomes very hard for you to settle. It becomes very hard for you to think. It becomes very hard for you to express, right? Because there's so many things happening around you every day. By the time the year ends, you're exhausted. Bless you. You're exhausted, right? The year ends, you're still going through the same phase. Because there's one thing that's not changing. It's just the approach. You know what I mean? Can't be fighting every day. You know what I mean? And then I'm saying fighting every day is like you can't constantly be fighting battles by yourself every day. You know what I mean? And hence the importance of having a community plays quite a crucial role. Because when you have a community, it's a lot easier not to be in the fighting spirit every day. You know what I mean? You won't always have to think, now I have to go tackle this, tackle that, because you know that even in the midst of your absence, things are still getting are gonna be done. You know what I mean? They're getting tackled. You feel me? And I think right now a lot of people are stuck between that and not wanting to be absent, because they feel like when I'm absent, I've become absent-minded, and if I'm absent-minded, nothing is gonna get done.
Like out of sight, out of mind type thing.
But it's not the case.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? And the other thing, really, the analogy I was making is because the Powerpuff Girls were villains, bro. This guy was making examples of, there was a time where Mojo Jojo was in jail. Nah? No. Mojo Jojo was sleeping. Nah? They were getting pranked by the green something. I can't remember what they were called. Green boys or something like that. Nah? But they were not shown who's pranking them. So they went to Mojo Jojo's lair. Nah? And what's that one in green? I can't remember the name, but one of them looked at Mojo Jojo. Mojo Jojo was sleeping. They were like, yo, he's dreaming evil dreams, and they beat the heck out of him. They beat the heck out of that man for sleeping. Second
oh, I think I remember this episode, yeah.
Yeah. The second one, Mojo Jojo was taking a break from being a villain. He went to the grocery store. I can't remember what I said, there was a crime. They ran into him and they just jumped him randomly. Another one, there was a robot that was taking over the city. Right? Mojo Jojo was in jail. Did they not break into jail to beat Mojo Jojo? Because they thought he had influence behind it. Do you understand how villainous those girls are? They had the time and energy. You know what I mean? They had the time and energy. They're like, Mojo Jojo is trying to chill. That man was not catching breaks. Even on days where he did not want to be a villain. On days where he was a villain,
I get you.
He deserved it. But on days where he didn't want to be a villain, nah, bruh. But do you see?
Nah, man, that ain't right, man.
That ain't right.
He should be able to isolate in peace.
Exactly. No, but he wasn't able to. Mojo Jojo was a victim in this instance. I feel like Mojo Jojo was a victim.
He was a victim for sure.
To his crimes.
Definitely.
To his crimes.
Definitely.
But do you understand that it's the same approach that life would have towards us, right? Sometimes life won't take a break on us, right? We need to, and I'm not saying take a break on us, it's like there's so many things happening. We need to then take a break. We need to be honest with ourselves, or honest enough to allow ourselves to take a break, to allow ourselves to transition.
Yeah.
You feel me? Because everything that happens is seasonal. You know what I mean? We can't say, no, I've been in the same position for 5 years, then you're comfortable. You're not allowed, you're not making room for change, you're not making room for growth, you know? And by the time you catch on to the transitional season, what you're transitioning over to has already phased out. In a sense that it won't have as much impact as it should have in your life as it could have had you had transitioned before. You know what I mean? So that's my understanding around it, and that's why, like, again, the first law of mention, you know, it speaks volume around just life. You know what I mean? And then finding yourself, and like how you placed it, like constantly not forgetting where you come from, right? And cross-referencing the beginning, the start, how you started, you know? Which, again, with the biblical reference is like Genesis, you know what I mean? In order to understand the story of the other characters, you need to start with Genesis. Because if you've never read Genesis, you won't understand how some of the characters get to where they get to. You know what I mean? Because Genesis was an establishing point. And we all have an establishing point in life.
Yeah.
You know? So to really, really know, and I think about it, it's like, yeah, no, it's something else, man. Actually, something else. You know, but
no, I hear
you know, to close off the show, do you have any words of wisdom to share today?
Words of wisdom today. Can you hear me clearly, by the way?
Yeah, I can hear you 100%.
Switched up my stuff. Okay, cool. Words of wisdom for today. yeah, like you're saying, you know, I'm in a meeting.
Wait, but where's my scissors?
Ask. I'm sorry about that.
Nah, it's
My
all
voice
good.
was right here.
It's all good.
So okay, so words of wisdom, like you were saying, I like this idea, you know, of like somehow making sure that you're taking care of yourself energy wise, in order to be effective. And like when those moments of change are taking place, that you have enough capacity for that thing to really make an impact and an impression on you, you know. I think that's very important. Like you're saying, Mojo Jojo was he was a victim because he didn't have time to rest.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like even when he was trying to isolate himself and take care of himself, like there was so much coming at him in the world, you know, that was kind of unfair, you know.
Yeah.
even if he was a villain before, like, but you know, he deserved also to rest. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's been very important in this season for me, in order for me not to exert unnecessary energy, and to make sure that where I do show up, it is of great impact. You know, that's definitely been true in my journey, and I've seen that happen. You know, like isolation is really, I mean, isolation with purpose is a gift. You know, for you to be able to retreat into a place where you can put things in place that you are willing to put a lot of energy behind, you know what I mean? And it also conserves a lot of energy for yourself in order for you to not be tired. Because I think, like you say, we become tired when there's just too much going on. You know, there's too many things that are impacting our everyday. Conserve your energy so that you can be impactful. Just like who's that actor? Denzel Washington was saying, you know. What did he say? He said, you can run in place and not make any progress in life. You know, you can be busy and not be impactful. You know, he said, don't confuse movement with progress. Yeah, that was really profound for me. Don't confuse movement with progress. Try to conserve your energy and really focus in on the things that you want completed, in order for those things to be impactful. And like the way I understand it is just like so that you cannot be tired for the things that you have to do. You know, it's very important for you to be energized for the things that you have to do, in order to really get the most out of that thing. So if there's too many distractions, by the time you get to the thing that you have to do, you know, you're depleted, you're distracted, you're kind of half-assing stuff, you know. And it's very important for a person, I think, to avoid that, you know. And I think that you do that, you know, by conserving your energy, by making a list of what you need to do, and focusing a lot on that, and you know, and like limiting those distractions, whether they be even this idea of networking and all that stuff, because those things are distractions, you know. If you've got tasks, make sure you've got energy to do that thing. Too much partying doesn't help, because like, you know, you wake up, you're depleted. Or too much socializing doesn't help. You wake up, you're depleted. Or maybe doing things that are too unrelated to to the tasks that you have is also, it depletes the spirit, So if you're going to do something, make sure that it's in alignment with the things that you have going on, with the things that you want to achieve, the things that you want to accomplish. And yeah, don't stop. Don't give up. This is also a word to self. Don't give up. I think life is more abundant than we think that it is. It's more opportune than we think that it is. But of course, we just need to have tools in order to get to where we want to get. So yeah, that's my parting shot. And see y'all next week.
See y'all next week. Peace and love, guys.
Peace and love.
Peace.